What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. Hope you guys are having a decent day. This is my review on Iyanla Fix My Life. This is the latest episode, and just let me tell y'all right now, I am pissed off. Okay, I'm pissed off from this episode, and if you watch the episode, you know why. So, I just want to say this before we start. One of the things that has destroyed a generation, my generation, is the crack epidemic. Okay, the crack epidemic has destroyed a complete generation of children because some parent, some close family member, somebody was on drugs, okay? And it is so sad that people start doing these type of behaviors, and I understand it's an addiction. I understand that it's now classified as an addiction. Back then, people were just strung out on shit and, whatever the case may be. Now it's classified as an addiction, but people don't, especially back then, people didn't realize how much it affected the other people around them. Okay? Did not realize it. And I think this is a classic case of a parent. I don't mean to say it like this, but this is how I always felt. A parent choosing drugs over their children. Alright, y'all, so I took some notes here. So I'm not going to go line by line or whatever, but I'm just going to talk about the things that stood out to me with this episode. Alright, so we have Kadeem. Kadeem is the first sibling to arrive. And you could tell that Kadeem, as people enter the house, they don't really know what to expect. And the first thing Iyanla makes him do is to grab a trash bag and to bring it to the table. Now, apparently, because they were in foster care, they were shuffled from house to house. They had no luggage. They only had trash bags. And this is something that what movie did I watch? I watched something. I can't remember what it was. Oh, This Is Us. When that's all Deja had was trash bags when she moved from house to house. So, yeah, all they had were trash bags, and he took out what was in the trash bag, and what was in the trash bag was a crock pot. And the second he saw this crock pot, Kadeem started to cry, because Kadeem said that when he was about 12 years old, he was at his foster parents' house, and he was washing the dishes, and I guess the foster parent told him to do something, and he didn't move fast enough, and she took the crock pot and hit him in the head with it at 12 years old. So he's starting to cry because that is a traumatic experience that he experienced. Alright, so the next sibling to arrive was Kadara, and Kadeem are twins. And, excuse me, my throat, y'all, I've been sick. But Kadara comes in, very beautiful girl, and she grabs her bag, and in her bag was a bullhorn. And basically is to find her voice and to speak up, because apparently she's not, when it comes to her thoughts and her feelings, she's very reserved about it. She doesn't really like to kick up a lot of dust. She is very timid and tamed with her speak because of the actions that happened to her when she was a child. She said at 5 years old she was raped, and she was molested by not only the people that they live with, but by her siblings. Alright, so the next person to come into the house was Michael. And Michael is, as all of them enter the house, you can tell that they're troubled. They're troubled people. Michael came into the house, and Michael grabbed his bag. Michael said that he has gotten so many beatings to the head with golf clubs and bats, whatever the case. He got so many beatings growing up that he now has epilepsy, and his epilepsy is severe at times, and it's kind of hard for him to deal with, I guess, stressful moments and stuff like that. And Um, out of everybody, I think Michael, from what I saw, Michael had the most pain in his eyes. And Iyanla pointed that out too. Michael, you could tell Michael has kept such a heavy burden on himself, and he's very quiet and soft spoken. Now I don't know how he is outside of the house, but he's very quiet and very soft spoken. Next person to arrive was William, and William apparently is the oldest. I think he's the oldest child. And William has been in and out of prison. He's just lived a life of crime, and in jail he found God, which most black men find God in jail. But but however you get to your walk, that's all I care about. But he found God, and he is now trying to right his wrongs as far as what he has done before. He found the right walk. And he comes in, he grabs his bag, and it's just a bunch of handcuffs in the bag. Now, the interesting thing is, William said that he hadn't seen his siblings in like 16 years. So, not only they grew up together, but because of the upbringing that they had, they are not connected whatsoever. And it doesn't even seem that the twins have a relationship. They just seem like they all, once they got older, they all just dispersed. They went their separate ways. They don't fuck with each other. So I found that kind of interesting that, it's been, but see, he was in prison as well too. He was in prison for a number of years, so he ain't seen his siblings. But after he got out, but the last person to arrive was Shalimar. And Shalimar was, I think she is the second child. I don't know if she's the oldest. It seemed like she was the oldest. She's the oldest, I think. And William is the second oldest. But because William and the others grew up together, Shalimar did not. So William was considered the older sibling in the house with the other siblings. Shalimar did not grow up with them. Shalimar grew up with her grandmother, which is her mother's mother. And the other siblings don't like her because they view her as having a fairy tale life. She did not want for anything. She was not in foster care. She was living with family. She was loved. She was appreciated. And in Shalimar's bag was a tiara because they just saw her as the princess, that she was able to live a better life than them. And she really does not have a relationship with her siblings. So she sits down with Kadeem on one-on-one, and Kadeem, talks about his upbringing. He said that, the second they were born, they were placed in foster care. And he does not have a relationship with the mother. He calls her by her first name. He says that she's not a mother to him. If she died, he wouldn't care. And a lot of people, especially a lot of people with lack of relationships with their parents, kind of feel the same way, especially if the parent did not contribute anything but pain in their lives. So he said that he don't care if she lives or dies, but he said that growing up he didn't learn anything about sex. He was sent off to that conversion camp or whatever the case may be. The only thing he knew was molestation, that they had to perform sexual acts on each other. Like, these people forced them to perform sexual acts on each other, because if they did not, they could not eat. Okay? And there are some people on this earth. The devil walks among us. The devil walks among us, because I don't know who could do something like that to children. There are some evil fucking people out here, and there's a lot of people who are evil because of the evil things that did to them. And then the one thing I can think about is R. Kelly off the top of my head, because he was molested as a child by his own sibling. Let's move on. Alright, so she sits down with Kadira, and Kadira, you can tell she's a quiet person. And she said that She was molested at 5 years old. She was laying in the bed and she felt somebody tugging at her underwear, and then they picked her up and they took her off and they did what they did with her. And all she knew was basically being a sex slave. She said that she was raped, beaten, molested, starved, and it seems like these people used food to control them. And she starts crying, and Iyanla noticed that she was crying, but she wasn't making a sound. And that's just an effect of growing up and having to endure all that stuff and not being able to cry out because of, you're afraid or whatever the case. You can't cry out. So you put all of that in her and within you, and she has grown up to be a person where she keeps everything in. She doesn't cry out, she doesn't scream, she doesn't cuss, she doesn't do any of that. And Iyanla took her outside to basically cuss out a fucking mailbox. And she said, you have to let that bitch out sometimes. Because and that shit resonated with me because growing up, I was very quiet. I was a quiet person. I was not I was the type of person that you can ask me or tell me to do anything and I would do it, because I didn't want to make somebody feel bad by saying no. I didn't know the word no. I didn't know how to say no. I was scared to say no because I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But people would treat me whatever kind of way and didn't give a fuck about my feelings. So as I started to get older, I'm the type of person that would talk to you but look down on the ground. And I think that's why, if you notice, sometimes I kind of look away sometimes, because I'm so used to like not making eye contact, always looking down. I always did that growing up. And as I got older and I started, dating and stuff like that, it was the same way. Like, people were, cheating and yada blah blah blah. And I realized that I had to kind of stand up for myself, and I had to let a bitch grow within me because I never had one. And I started becoming a bitch. And it wasn't because I was just a natural bitch. I had to do it to protect myself. And Iyanla told her, sometimes you gotta let that bitch out, because the bitch is the only way that you can cuss a motherfucker out. And that is true. And she stood at that mailbox outside of this house and cussed out a mailbox and told the mailbox, fuck you. Iyanla said, tell that mailbox to fuck you, because as a person who keeps everything in, you don't want to kick up dust. So you just like, I'm not going to say nothing. I'm just going to shut up. I'm not going to whatever. But until you bring that bitch out, the bitch allows you to say what you need to say, So, she was able to kind of let out her anger. So I thought that was a really good exercise for somebody who is very reserved and very shy and very within themselves and everything like that. So Shalimar says that she don't really know her siblings because they never grew up together and they have these experiences and she never had it. And I don't think Shalimar knows the extent and the horror that they endured. I think Shalimar is looking at it is like, well, I didn't grow up with them. They grew up together, so they have more of a connection than they have, than I have with them. But they don't even have a connection with each other because of what happened growing up. They don't even have a fucking connection. They're old. They're all individual. They're not a family because they're each other's predator. You know what I'm saying? Even though the foster people are the real predators, but because the foster people got away with it because they weren't the one molesting, they allowed them to molest each other, which is sick as fuck. Shalimar said that, she's upset with her mother because her mother was on drugs. And her mother basically, I think at 4 months old, they told her mother, stay with Shalimar or leave with the man. And her mom left with the man because her mom was on drugs. And As I've told you guys that my father was on drugs, so I did not have a relationship with my father. I barely remember him. I barely knew his face. He's has since passed away, but I didn't grow up in a condition. I probably grew up more like Shalimar, where I grew up with my mom and my grandmother. She didn't have her mother, but I grew up with my mom and my grandmother. In a we were not poor. We didn't starve for anything. We grew up very well to do, I guess. I don't know if you want to call it that. But I always felt like my father chose drugs over me. And that's not the case. I guess it's an addiction and it's a issue, and I understand that now as an adult. But as a child, you don't know that shit. You think that your parent is just would rather be on crack than to be your parent. And that's how I felt growing up. So I think I resonate more with Shalimar because, even though I grew up good and I didn't ever want for anything, I wanted that other parent there. I wanted to have a relationship with my father. And I was not able to have that relationship. And my father passed away. He died. Me being his only child, he died. I never spoke to him. I never resolved any issues. Nothing. The last time I saw my father, I was 16 years old. My father was, and this is, I'm telling y'all everything. I'm telling y'all too much. But my father was, like, when I saw him, because he didn't live on the same island, but when I saw him, he was like, he looked like a crackhead. He looked like a bum on the street. And I could not look at him. And he could not look at me. And that was it. He tried to talk to me, and I couldn't fuck with it. And that was the last time I saw him. And I saw him in his casket on April 4th, 2005, which was my 25th birthday. So I buried my father on my birthday. Well, his people buried him on my birthday. And, it's kind of hard that you never got to resolve shit. Alright, so we're at day 2, and we have William and Iyanla. And William is in pain because he feels like he was not able to protect his siblings. He said that he was in the basement. Michael said that he was in a closet. He couldn't eat. All they had was bread and water. They could not eat anything. A cup of water and 2 slices of bread. And that's all they had to eat for a month. For weeks, they were locked in closets and all that stuff. And the only way they can get something to eat, like food, was to molest each other. So William said that, he was not able to protect his siblings. And as the oldest, you want to be able to protect your siblings, but you can't. You need protection as well. And these adults were not the protectors of you. And it is sad that it's harmful, and it's sad that he is carrying the burden, feeling like he did not do all he could to protect them, but he couldn't. There was nobody to protect him. There was nobody to protect all of them. So he's putting that burden on himself, and Iyanla wants him to release it because he's holding it in. So she takes him to the backyard, digs out a little hole in the dirt, and has this man laying down face down on this dirt and speaking his truth within the dirt. And I felt like my mom called me because she was watching it, and she called me and she was like, she was laughing about it or whatever, him being on the floor, dirting his clothes up. But I understood what she was doing, because you don't want to speak this out at all. You don't want to talk about it. Speak it into the dirt. The dirt is renewed. When she's speaking into the dirt, you're releasing the shit. You're releasing it. And I understood what she was doing. And he whispered what it was. He wants them to forgive him. He wants them to forgive him. Now, I got to the point where I kind of felt like because of his religion and his walk with God, he just was not settled in his soul about what he had to do to his siblings. And he released it to the earth. We didn't hear what it was. So we get all the siblings around the same table with all the trash and the gunk and all the shit that they had in the bags on the table. And they start, Iyanla speaks to Shalimar, and she said that, she didn't grow up as privileged or, as happy and healthy as they think that she did. She said that she was molested. And it seems like William didn't know. I think Michael didn't know, but it seems like Kadeem and Kadara did know. And Kadeem made a reference and said, I knew about one of the people that molested her. So you have 5 siblings that were all molested. And Iyanla tried to talk to Michael, and Michael was unresponsive, and I felt like I felt like an episode of his epilepsy was coming, or it was just plain old anger, because he was flinching, and he was hit. I don't know. He was flinching a lot, to the point where a medic actually had to come out and talk to him because he was not speaking. And Iyanla went over to him, and basically tried to get his attention, to speak his words out, because again, he is one of the siblings. They're all doing this. They're all holding in the shit that happened to them, and they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to bring it up. They don't want to release it. And he's one of them that is just not, he's having a hard time keeping it in. And he finally says that it's been so hard holding this in, and I want to let it go. And y'all can say what y'all want about Iyanla. People say that, oh, she be milking this shit. Whatever the case. Y'all can say whatever y'all want about Iyanla. But Iyanla, to me, her teaching and the way she approaches a subject, it may not be for everybody. It is very brash at times. But to me, I feel like it is effective, because she allows you to see the fuck shit in front of your face, and she allows you to acknowledge it and connect with it or disconnect with it. So people can say what they want, but I feel like this show is not just a show for TV, but it helps you, those who are viewing it as well, to cope with a lot of the shit that happened to them growing up. Alright, so Iyanla tells them they have every right to feel how they feel. They have every right to be mad at their foster people. They have every right, because these people did not do right by them. Their mother did not do right by them. The system did not do right by them. So William finally says that he is sorry for the molestation, because he had to molest, he basically they were all forced to molest them. And I think that his relationship with Kadara is the most strained, because she does not view him as her brother. She views him as her predator. She views him as her abuser. She views him as her rapist. And their relationship, to me, is the most harsh, because he can't love her as his sibling, because she views him as somebody that he's not. He was forced to do the things that he did to you. So they removed everything from the table, and they now had food. And they all sat down, and basically she wanted them to all break bread together as a family, because they're all they have. Okay, regardless to what they've been through as kids, they're all the family they got. And she had them sitting down at the table having a family dinner. She asked William to sit at the head of the table, because he is the man of the house, to be honest. He is the man of the family. He had them to sit there. She created a quilt, which I thought was a beautiful gesture. She created a quilt with all their pictures on it, and each sibling would have the quilt for a year. And it actually allows them to continue to communicate with each other, because they go years without even speaking. Now they have this quilt where they now have the ability to communicate with each other. So I felt like it was a great episode. It was so like, I cried, y'all, because the shit that a lot of these foster kids go through is some disheartening shit. And I just want to say something real quick. There's somebody on YouTube that I follow that I feel like is the perfect example for what a foster parent, for what a parent should be to their child. And that is Sean Bradley. If you don't know who Sean Bradley is, he is a YouTuber on here. I will link him below. I love Sean. I support Sean. I feel like Sean is a great parent to the foster kids that come into his home. He takes in young men who nobody want, teenagers. He started taking in a little boy that is, I think he's like 10 or something like that, and he's doing things and taking them places and helping them to experience the things that they would never experience. And he is, to me, the epitome of a great foster parent. And they need to have more parents like Sean, more foster parents like Sean, because he takes his time with these kids and he shows them, he puts them in a home and creates it as a family. He doesn't make it seem like, okay, I just got you here for a check. He makes it as if you are a part of my family. Once you're in this home, you are my child. And he makes them feel loved in the home. And I feel like a lot of people need to take that as an example, because even though these kids are not yours, even though these kids are not biologically yours, they are still children that need love and affection and care and hopes. They want to see them, they want to see you have so much promise and faith in them that it drives kids to do better. And the fact that these kids did not have that, they had animals taking care of them for a check. The fact that they had these people doing, these people were doing that. The system failed these kids. The family failed these kids. The mother failed these kids. These kids are now left damaged, bruised, and feeling unwanted because of shit adults could not fucking handle. And I feel like that is the takeaway for me with this episode. Adults don't know what the fuck they doing half the time. And the actions that you do, you feel like they may not, you don't even think about kids. You don't think about how your kids will react, how it will affect them. Shit that parents do affects your kids. And the shit that you feel like a kid won't remember, they take that shit to the grave because they remember every fucked up situation that they ever felt uncomfortable in growing up as a child. And the fact that these kids had to suffer starvation, had to suffer from beatings and molestation and all that shit, I am surprised they are all here today. Because that is some heavy ass shit to carry with you for the rest of your life. That is heavy. And I really want them to seek counseling, extensive counseling, because this shit is some heavy shit. And at the end, it showed them that they were trying to form a relationship with each other. They were, in communication with each other. So I felt like that was a great first step. I feel like the mom was supposed to be there for this episode, but she chickened out and she ran away like she normally did. But it said that the mom contacted them after filming and she is willing to sit down. So there's going to be a part 2 of this episode where the kids are able to sit down with the mother and hopefully confront her. And Iyanla is sitting down with this woman and confronting her. Because I understand, and I keep saying this, I understand it's an addiction, I understand it's a sickness and all that shit. But you make the choice to be a fucking drug addict, okay? You made the choice to put that pipe, to put that rock, to put whatever the fuck you putting in your arm, whatever the case. You make that initial choice to get high. And you getting high created a fucking addiction within you, whereas you don't give a fuck about your mama, you don't give a fuck about your daddy, you don't give a fuck about nobody else, your kids, your job. You don't give a fuck about nothing else. All you're doing is chasing the next high. That's a responsibility that you have to live with. And I saw in the preview, she's saying, all I can do is say I'm sorry. No, baby. That is not going to work. Because you and these people have damaged these fucking children to the point where they have experienced the most horrific shit, baby. Saying sorry is not going to do it. These children need to cuss you the fuck out. They need to hate you. They need to just whatever they have to do, they have to do it, because these people don't know you. These kids do not know you. They know you as their donor. They know you as the person that brought them through the world and brought them to the world. There, you are not the. Iyanla said something like, she's not the giver of your life. She's just the vessel that you came through. Y'all, deep, heavy episode. Let me know what y'all thought about the episode below. Jesus. Y'all, I don't know how people could do this to kids. I don't know how there are so many evil fucking people out here, but there are evil people, and if we see a child that is in need, if we see a child that needs help, it is our job as adults, it is our job to protect that child. Regardless of who the child is, it is our job as adults to see a child in need and protect that child. So with that, I am gone. I will see you guys in my next video.